Orphaned at a young age, Su-hong was raised through tough times by his caring uncle and aunt. Because of his amazing talent in martial arts, his struggling family gave everything they had to support his training. He definitely didn't let them down. During an arena tournament, a terrible accident unexpectedly turned into a blessing. He was chosen by the gods and awakened the martial arts system. By training inside his mental space with a clone mentor, he can master any martial arts skill in the world in record time. By defeating enemies, he earns martial points that he can use to boost his vitality or upgrade his techniques. He can even break past human limits to awaken legendary physiques. As he continues to fight and crush his opponents, top geniuses from all over suddenly realize a harsh truth. They are just basic stepping stones needed to even face him. Now, let's find out how this guy became the martial god. Two students were in the middle of a sparring match. One punch landed hard, and the student who took the hit complained that it hurt like hell. He laughed it off. Noting that Su-hong's Vajra fist had clearly improved again, he wondered aloud if Su-hong had already stepped into the micro level. Su-hong stayed calm and replied that he had only broken through to the micro level 2 days ago. In this world, martial arts were divided into specific ranks: basic, proficient, micro level, mastered, and perfect. Reaching the micro level already put someone far ahead of most of their peers. The other student couldn't help but admire him, saying that when it came to the Vajra fist, no one else in their class could even compare. He then asked if Su-hong was done resting so they could continue practicing. But the pain from that single punch was still stinging, and he actually had no intention of taking another hit. Calling Su-hong a cultivation maniac, he waved him off and said he was heading home to eat. Before leaving the training hall, he politely said goodbye to Teacher Lee. Teacher Lee reminded him to straighten up his clothes before walking out. Then, the teacher turned to Su-hong and stopped him. He asked why Su-hong still hadn't paid the 30,000 registration fee for the martial arts department, reminding him that applications were closing next month. Su-hong hesitated for a moment before asking if he could be given a few more days. Teacher Lee sighed, saying he understood Su-hong's family situation. But rules were rules, and there was nothing he could do to change them. After everyone else had left, Su-hong stayed behind and continued to practice alone. No matter how many times he repeated his forms, one thought kept circling in his mind: the 30,000 registration fee. His memories drifted back to the past. When he was 3 years old, his parents had died during a disaster caused by ferocious beasts. Since then, he had lived with his uncle and aunt. After they discovered his talent for martial arts, they had done everything in their power to support his training. In an era where ferocious beasts roamed freely, becoming a martial artist was the best way to earn good money. He had trained hard to give them a better life. Yet right now, it felt like he was only making things harder for them. Later, he returned to a quiet corner of the city, arriving at the cramped, worn-down apartment he called home. Inside, his aunt asked softly whether the rent was almost due and how much money they were still short. His uncle said the rent could wait and that little Hong's registration fee needed to be paid first. His aunt agreed, mentioning that with such talent, Su-hong was sure to succeed one day, and they couldn't afford to hold him back. Then she added casually that she would stop taking her medicine. It wasn't curing her anyway, and stopping would save them money. His uncle immediately objected, telling her he would just take on another job instead. He insisted she stay home, rest properly, and focus on her health, assuring her that everything else would work out. Hearing all of this from the shadows, Su-hong felt a tight ache in his chest, and a wave of sadness washed over him. He couldn't help but feel that this was a stupid, messed up world. It had twisted his life into something he barely recognized. Everywhere he looked, people were greedy. Even if someone simply wanted to register for something they were talented at, they still had to pay money for it. Money he had no talent for earning. If he had actually been good at making money, he probably wouldn't have had talent for martial arts at all. The more he thought about it, the crazier the world seemed. Pushing those dark thoughts aside, he opened the door and called out that he was back. His aunt, who treated him like her own son, immediately fussed over him, asking why he had practiced so late and telling him he must be exhausted. Su-hong tried to take over the chores, telling her he would handle them, but she waved him off. She insisted it was nothing and told him to go rest so he wouldn't be tired the next day. His uncle backed her up, telling him to listen and go to bed quickly. Su-hong returned to his room, but sleep refused to come. He lay there, wide awake, his thoughts running in circles. His uncle and aunt had already sacrificed so much for him. He couldn't keep letting that happen. This time, he would solve his own problem. For a martial artist to earn tens of thousands in just a few days, there was only one place that came to mind. The very next day, a loud announcement echoed through the streets. The crowd was welcomed to the Martial Apprentice Arena Challenge, a place where only victory or defeat mattered, regardless of life or death. It was the underground martial arena. The announcer's voice rose with excitement as she introduced the ring defender for the day, a fighter called Mr. Minotaur. The rules were simple. If he could win 4 matches in a row, he would walk away with $60,000 in prize money. If not, he would get nothing. The crowd was told to watch closely. The audience immediately erupted in whispers. No one recognized him. Some guessed he was a rookie, while others scoffed, saying a newcomer jumping straight into the arena challenge was basically courting death. Off to the side, the announcer leaned over and whispered to the kid to show some passion and heat up the atmosphere. The boy looked confused and asked how he was supposed to do that. The announcer sighed and told him to provoke the crowd or curse a little, muttering that this was exactly why rookies were such a headache. Realization dawned on the Minotaur. Letting out a roar, he shouted that below the level of a formal martial artist, he was invincible, challenging all weaklings to come and fight him. The crowd exploded at once. Some cursed him for being absurdly arrogant, while others laughed and praised his guts. The atmosphere instantly boiled over. Someone in the crowd sneered that this guy wouldn't even know how he died later. That only lit the fuse. Cheers erupted from every direction. Some people shouted their approval, others yelled for blood, and a few just screamed insults at the so-called Minotaur. With the atmosphere at its peak, the announcer declared that the match had officially begun. Behind the Minotaur mask, Su Hong stayed calm. He could clearly feel the heavy killing intent unique to the underground arena. Still, this was the fastest way to gather enough tuition money. As long as he could win a few rounds with his Vajra fist, it would be worth it. His first opponent stepped forward, calling him an arrogant brat and saying he would play with him a little. Su Hong barely paid attention, his eyes calmly sizing the man up. The opponent's momentum was strong, but his footing was unstable. From the look of it, winning wouldn't be difficult. Seeing him space out, the opponent cursed and charged straight in with a punch. Su Hong sidestepped it cleanly, then casually swung his other hand. The strike landed squarely on the man's jaw, sending him flying straight back to where he had come from. The announcer instantly lost her composure. She was already starting to love this masked fighter, even joking to herself that she might want to ask him out later. Laughing into the microphone, she shouted that Minotaur had taken his first win. The crowd exploded with excited shouts and cheers. A second challenger stepped up, scoffing that the last guy had just been unlucky. But things would be different this time. Su Hong simply replied with a casual, "Please," while calmly judging his opponent. Based on his build, the guy's strength looked decent. Perfect for testing how powerful his Vajra fist really was. The man shouted and leaped in with a heavy punch. Su Hong met the attack head-on. With one Vajra fist strike, he shattered the incoming force. The opponent cried out in shock at the sheer power behind the blow. Su Hong could already tell the difference. This guy was strong, but still weaker than him. After taking a single counterattack, the opponent had relied too much on his upper body strength, leaving his waist wide open. Su Hong followed up with a brutal kick, and the man was sent flying off the stage just like the first one. The arena went wild. Some people cursed in disbelief, while others shouted that he was insanely strong. Next, the announcer excitedly declared that Minotaur had achieved 2 consecutive wins. The cheers grew even louder, becoming almost deafening. In a quieter corner, a few well-dressed spectators watched with sharp eyes. One of them muttered that the kid wasn't even a quasi-martial artist, yet his strength far surpassed the average. There was no doubt about it. This one was unusual. The announcer's voice rang out again, declaring Minotaur's 3rd consecutive win. In the viewing area, one of the men watching commented that the kid was better than the worst, but nowhere near the best. Someone like that, he noted, was perfect material for match fixing. From behind him, a masked young man spoke up, saying he would go handle it. The older man reminded him not to reveal the fact that he had already broken through to the martial artist level. After racking up so many wins, Su Hong felt increasingly confident. Ordinary martial apprentices were no longer much of a challenge to him. With his Vajra fist at the micro level, winning one more match would earn him the full 60,000 prize money. Just then, the crowd suddenly stirred. People started shouting that White Fox was actually stepping into the ring. The moment the masked fighter appeared, the arena erupted. Some exclaimed that White Fox was a quasi-martial artist. Others protested that a quasi-martial artist fighting a martial apprentice was basically cheating. Su Hong's heart sank slightly. A quasi-martial artist? This match was going to be troublesome. Still, backing down wasn't an option. He couldn't afford to lose now. White Fox stopped in front of him and studied him calmly before speaking. He told Su Hong not to be afraid, claiming he knew how to hold back his strength. The announcer's voice cut in again, declaring the final match of the arena challenge and shouting for the fight to begin. Both fighters exploded forward at full speed. Su Hong immediately sensed the gap in their levels. His cultivation was lower, so he had no choice but to go all out with his opening move. His punch blasted forward, sending visible shockwaves rippling through the air. The collision shook the ring as both sides displayed frightening power. The instant their fists met, Su Hong's heart skipped a beat. He noticed something was wrong. His opponent wasn't a quasi-martial artist at all. He was a true martial artist who had deliberately suppressed his vitality. A surge of tension washed over Su Hong. He had never expected a monster like this to appear out of nowhere. White Fox took a sharp breath and launched another attack, unleashing the Thunder Rush Fist. One strike followed another in rapid succession, each blow heavier than the last. Under the relentless assault, Su Hong was forced back, pain spreading through his body. So this was the strength of a real martial artist. The crowd was stunned. Someone recognized the technique, shouting that it was the 3 Echo Thunder Rush Fist. No one had expected to see such a move here, and the surprise alone was worth the ticket price. Others shook their heads, saying the Minotaur was finished. To them, the outcome was already obvious. Yet White Fox showed no intention of stopping, his attacks continuing one after another, pressing the advantage without mercy. After a while, White Fox clearly started getting bored. He told Minotaur that only defending was pointless, and urged him to fight back, saying he wanted to see what kind of strength he really had. For now, Minotaur could do nothing but block. Even through his defenses, the punches were tearing into him, pain spreading with every impact. If this kept up, he knew he would lose for sure. He needed a chance to counterattack, but White Fox's strikes were too fast and too relentless, leaving no openings at all. Then White Fox found an opening himself, a punch shot straight toward Minotaur's jaw. The impact sent him flying, and he crashed hard onto the ground. Lying there, his vision blurred as his consciousness began to fade. Before he could recover, White Fox stepped up and spoke calmly. He told Su Hong that he wouldn't get a single coin of the prize money from this match, but his teacher was willing to invite him in. If Minotaur agreed to fix matches for them in the future, they would pay him the equivalent of this match's prize money. Even with White Fox's foot pressing down on his face, Minotaur refused without hesitation. He said he would never do something so shameless. White Fox was briefly taken aback. He hadn't expected such a firm rejection. Regaining his composure, he warned him to think carefully, saying that refusing them came with a price he couldn't afford. Minotaur shot back, asking whether people who did things like this really deserved to call themselves martial artists. That was enough. White Fox said there was nothing left to discuss. As he turned to leave, he coldly added that since Minotaur wouldn't cooperate, he had no choice but to cripple him, ensuring he could only dream about being a martial artist in the future. As White Fox moved to strike his leg, those words echoed in Minotaur's mind, sharp and piercing. Become a martial artist. A surge of instinct kicked in. He twisted away at the last moment, narrowly avoiding the blow. He couldn't afford to be crippled. Forcing himself back up, Minotaur re-entered the fight. White Fox stared in surprise as Minotaur steadied himself, his eyes burning with determination. He couldn't fall here. Not here. Something snapped inside him and a second wind surged through his battered body. White Fox couldn't hide his shock. He had clearly landed a Thunder Rush Fist earlier, yet somehow this guy was still standing. Yet in his heart, Su Hong remained painfully clear-headed. He wanted to become a martial artist. He couldn't allow the sacrifices his uncle and aunt had made over all these years to be wasted. He wanted to give them a good life. But did that really mean he had to abandon everything a martial artist was supposed to stand for? The answer came almost instantly. No. That kind of future was something he would never accept. At that very moment, something strange happened. A status window suddenly appeared right in front of his eyes. Cold, emotionless words floated on the screen, asking what he was willing to sacrifice for his future and for his faith. Su Hong didn't hesitate. His eyes burned with fierce resolve as he answered, without the slightest doubt, that he was willing to give up everything. The system asked once more if he was truly willing to pay the price. Minotaur gave the same answer as before. Everything. The moment the word left his mouth, something deep inside him began to change. His shadow twisted and stretched, transforming into the outline of a terrifying monster. Su Hong was stunned. He didn't know where he was, and the shadow looming behind him belonged to a massive, unknown creature. Before he could ask anything, the massive presence spoke, granting him this chance. A strange aura wrapped around Su Hong, and a status window appeared, listing all his details. Su Hong stared in disbelief. It displayed every single one of his attributes. Acting on impulse, he tapped the mission section. A notification for a random mission. Way of the arena popped up. To defeat White Fox, he had to raise his Vajra fist to mastered level and refine his floating light palm and void step to micro level. It was a brutal task given his current low proficiency, but necessary to unlock the beginner's guide. Su Hong was confused by the sudden information, but before he could think, a fist flew straight toward his face. Su Hong ducked instinctively. When he looked up, he froze. Standing before him was a perfect clone. The copy moved with textbook form, using a level of Vajra fist far beyond his own. Every move was standard and precise. With such a flawless example right in front of him, he couldn't let the opportunity slip. As he exchanged blows with the clone, he realized this wasn't just a fight, it was a lesson. Midway through, he noticed his Vajra fist proficiency had jumped up. It went from 7% to 10% in moments. The improvement was shockingly fast. So this was the trick. This place allowed him to rapidly upgrade his martial arts skills. He kept fighting, learning, and adjusting his form with every clash. His proficiency climbed higher until it finally hit 100%. His floating light palm reached full mastery and he sent the clone flying. His void step followed, reaching full proficiency. Finally, the Vajra fist was perfected. Exhaustion caught up to him. Breathing heavily, Su Hong nodded to the empty air. Thanks a lot. The system congratulated him on completing the mission. Su Hong accepted the rewards and immediately chose to return to reality. Instantly, he was back in the arena wearing the Minotaur mask, standing opposite White Fox. White Fox sneered and unleashed another round of thunderous fist. The blows were fierce, but Minotaur calmly noted they were too slow. He slipped past every strike with ease. Before White Fox could react, Su Hong's fist slammed into his face. The mask shattered and White Fox crashed to the ground. The crowd froze, staring in disbelief. Minotaur calmly asked for his prize money for winning the fourth match. The stunned announcer fumbled for words before finally declaring Minotaur the winner of the 60,000 grand prize. In the audience, the teacher frowned. A mere apprentice mastering the Vajra fist was impossible. Suspicious, he ordered his men to follow Minotaur and investigate his identity. Leaving the arena, Su Hong sensed he was being followed. He burst into motion, his speed exploding as he vanished from their sight. The pursuers stopped in confusion, unable to track him. Hidden safely, Su Hong mocked their clumsy attempt. An hour later, he returned home. His aunt and uncle were stunned by the large pile of money. His uncle asked if he robbed a bank. Su Hong explained he worked as a sparring partner and the dojo master decided to sponsor his studies. The uncle asked if it was the stingy dojo, but Su Hong simply asked them to trust him. Seeing his serious expression, they smiled. His uncle agreed that little Hong would never lie and they celebrated his bright future. That night, Su Hong climbed onto the roof. Under the moonlight, he reflected on his situation. The exam fees, rent, and medical expenses were settled. He laughed in relief. He checked the system interface. He survived thanks to this mysterious power. He noticed a stat called martial value. A notification stated he gained 57 martial value points for defeating a higher level opponent. These could be used to increase vitality and skills. Su Hong tried it immediately. When he added points to vitality, scorching energy exploded inside his body. His vitality reached 90. That was already the level of a quasi-martial artist. He poured the remaining points into vitality. His body felt lighter, stronger, and more alive. Su Hong clenched his fists. Even his wounds were healed and he felt brimming with power. He felt an urge to test his new strength. He leaped across the rooftops toward the combat power tester at the school's drill ground. He arrived at Star City No. 1 High School shortly after. The place was quiet, with a lone Tier 1 combat power tester sitting there. Su Hong gathered his vitality but decided to hold back. Using only 70% of his strength, his fist struck the machine with a sharp impact. For a split second, the punch felt incredibly heavy. Suddenly the tester sparked and died. Stunned, he worried he would have to pay for the poor quality machine and decided to leave. A voice shouted from behind, asking who was there. Suong bolted without explaining. A furious caretaker rushed over to the ruined machine, cursing the vandal. He assumed it was the usual troublemakers, Chun Shan and Li Duo, and swore to educate them when school started. The gymnasium at Star City No. 1 High School was packed. Students crowded every corner of the room and Suong stood quietly among them. While he waited, he heard someone mention that Chun Shan had gotten beaten up. This immediately caught his attention, so he asked what had happened. A student nearby explained that Chun Shan had smashed the combat power tester in the middle of the night and refused to admit it. Because of that, the principal punished him right there. Hearing this, Suong felt a bit awkward. It turned out someone else had taken the blame for his mistake. At the same time, he felt relieved. If he had been caught, he never could have afforded to pay for that machine. Before he could think about it further, the announcer's voice echoed through the hall, telling everyone to be quiet. He announced that a special guest, a Tier 3 martial artist named Chan Tian, was here to teach them a C-rank martial art called the Thunder Rush Fist. He told the students to pay close attention. The gym instantly erupted with noise. Some students shouted that this was their first time seeing a Tier 3 martial artist in person. Others talked about how C-rank martial arts usually cost a fortune to learn at outside dojos. But the moment Suong heard the name, his eyes lit up. Thunder Rush Fist. That was the same move White Fox had used in the underground arena. One punch created the impact of 3. Its power was undeniable. Outside of school, just the registration fee to learn something like this would be huge. There was no way he was going to miss this chance. Chan Tian didn't waste time with small talk. He told the students he would demonstrate the technique 10 times from start to finish. How much they learned would depend entirely on them. He stepped forward, got into his stance, and began. Shouting Thunder Rush Fist, he threw a punch. The force was intense, and the sound of thunder rolled through the gym. As he demonstrated, he explained the levels. At the basic level, a punch makes 1 thunder clap. At the proficient level, it makes 3 sounds. At the micro level, it makes 5. At the mastered level, it creates 7 sounds, which was his current level. As he finished the move, 7 loud thunder sounds echoed out, making the air vibrate. After using so much energy, Chan Tian paused to catch his breath. He added that at the perfect realm, one could strike out 9 thunder sounds. However, he told them not to aim too high. If they could just grasp the basics today, that would be good enough. After a short break, Chan Tian announced the second demonstration and told everyone to try and follow along. The gym quickly filled with students shouting awkward battle cries as they tried to copy his movements. Hours passed by quickly. One by one, students began to collapse from exhaustion. Some complained that they couldn't get it at all, while others groaned about being totally drained. A few stubborn ones kept practicing, asking if anyone had found the trick, even though their bodies were giving out. One of Su Hong's friends wiped his sweat inside, saying that C-rank martial arts were just too hard to learn. Looking around, he realized Su Hong was gone. For a second, he wondered if Su Hong had already learned it, but then he just wondered where he went. Just then, excited laughter rang out nearby. Someone proudly announced that he had reached the basic level. The friend turned and saw Chen Shan looking very pleased with himself. A wave of jealousy hit him. No wonder everyone called Chen Shan a genius. How was he so good at this? The principal quickly stepped forward, introduced Chen Shan as the school's top genius, and asked Chan Tian if he wanted to train him. Students crowded around, calling Chen Shan a true prodigy. Chan Tian, however, didn't look impressed. He casually said this barely counted as being a genius. In other cities, this level was just average. Later, the group moved outside while continuing their conversation. Chan Tian complained to the principal that these students weren't impressive at all, making the trip feel like a waste of time. Deep down, he suspected the school focused more on students with money than talent. Still, to make himself feel better, he thought about how at least one student reached the basic level and he got paid well. He asked the principal if he really expected to find a top-tier genius here. The principal sighed, agreeing that the path of martial arts was cruel. Talent was too important. Hard work alone, without opportunity, just wasn't enough. Just as they were talking, a sudden noise echoed through the air. Both of them froze and immediately looked toward where the sound came from. 7 thunderous sounds. 7 sound thunder rush fists. Their expressions changed instantly. They couldn't believe it, asking how the school could have someone at that level. The principal was even more shocked. He said it was impossible. He had never heard of someone like that in his school. The principal then realized something else.
He didn't even recognize that student. The kid hadn't paid any extra fees.
Staring at his clothes, his heart skipped a beat. That uniform clearly belonged to a student. The shock hit him hard. If he had been strict about the rules, this student probably wouldn't have even been allowed in the lesson.
Even Chan Tian was stunned.
He muttered that he had only taught for half a day, yet someone had already reached the mastered level.
The principal's mind went blank.
He asked if he heard wrong.
9 sounds? Was that really 9 sounds? Chan Tian couldn't speak.
He stood there silently, feeling so emotional he almost wanted to cry.
The principal wasn't doing much better. He never imagined someone without money could have such terrifying talent. Seeing Chan Tian frozen in place, the principal asked what was wrong. Chan Tian finally exhaled and said he understood now. Everything suddenly made sense.
Without another word, he got into his stance and threw a thunder rush fist of his own.
The air exploded. 8 thunderous sounds rang out.
The principal nearly jumped.
8 sounds? Chan Tian had broken through? Chan Tian stared at his own fist, excitement showing on his face.
He said that seeing that student's punch gave him the inspiration he had been missing for years. Without it, he might never have broken through in his lifetime. But then reality hit him.
This was not the time to celebrate. Chan Tian urgently told the principal to hurry and find that student.
The principal snapped out of it and actually started running. Unfortunately, by the time they reached the spot, the student was already gone. As for Su Hong, he had already achieved his goal. While walking away, he thought about how practicing a C-rank martial art was much more exhausting than the D-rank Vajra fist. His Thunder Rush fist had already reached the perfect realm. Now, the next step was figuring out how to earn more martial value points to become a true martial artist as soon as possible.
He couldn't risk life and death fights in the underground arena every time.
If he could gain points through normal sparring, that would be much better.
Not long after, he arrived at his workplace. The Raging Thunder Dojo. Inside, students were training as usual.
When they saw him, someone asked why he came in today. Su Hong casually replied that he wasn't busy and just came by to practice.
Just then, a loud thud echoed across the hall.
A student was sent crashing to the floor. Standing over him, another guy sneered. He said that if someone dared to claim his teacher taught poorly, they should first admit they were just bad at learning instead of making excuses.
Su Hong glanced over and asked what was happening.
His friend explained that since Su Hong hadn't been around lately, he wouldn't know. That student's teacher was a new instructor who was very strong, but he looked down on ordinary people and taught in a very lazy way. On top of that, his disciple, a guy named Li Yan, was also extremely strong.
Right as they were talking, another student was knocked down. Li Yan looked at him and sneered, saying he shouldn't dare to challenge him with such a weak level.
Before things could get worse, Su Hong stepped in and grabbed Li Yan's wrist, telling him that was enough. Li Yan immediately glared at him, asking who he was and telling him to let go. He said if Su Hong had the guts, they could settle it properly in the arena one-on-one.
Su Hong didn't back down and calmly agreed.
At that moment, a voice interrupted, asking what the noise was about and announcing that class was starting. Li Yan pulled his hand back and sneered, telling Su Hong he was lucky this time. Watching him leave, Su Hong thought that this guy was way too arrogant. Soon after, the instructor spoke up. He announced that today was the last day he would teach the Raging Sea Spear technique. As usual, he would only demonstrate it once. As he took his stance, it was clear the instructor didn't believe anyone could learn it from just one demonstration. Still, Su Hong watched with intense focus. For him, once was enough. His eyes followed every movement as the spear swept through the air. When the demonstration ended, the instructor turned to leave, saying that how much they learned was up to them. Complaints immediately broke out. Some students called the one-time demonstration a scam. Others complained that those in the back row couldn't even see clearly. Su Hong, however, had already understood the essence of it. The spear moved like a dragon crashing into the sea, its power rolling forward like endless waves. Picking up a spear himself, he began to move, perfectly copying what he had just seen. For a moment, everyone fell silent. Then, the noise erupted. People stared in disbelief, shouting that Su Hong had actually learned it. Others muttered that this was the first time they'd seen such a prodigy, while some bitterly wondered if they were just too stupid to understand it. Drawn by the noise, Li Yan returned and asked who had supposedly learned the technique. He scoffed at the idea. Then he saw Su Hong. Watching Su Hong's spear flow smoothly, Li Yan's eyes narrowed. It really did look like he had understood it. He felt a spark of interest.
Testing someone like this would be fun.
Stepping forward, Li Yan called out to him, saying he would give him a few pointers on his spear technique. Li Yan grabbed his spear, twirled it, and pointed the tip at Su Hong, signaling him to come on. He repeated that he would teach him a lesson. Su Hong simply agreed. One of the students hurriedly tried to stop him. He warned that even though Li Yan was a bad person, he was actually very strong, so Su Hong shouldn't be impulsive. Su Hong just smiled and told him not to worry. He stepped forward with his spear and got into position. Facing Li Yan, he politely said he looked forward to his guidance. That sentence completely set Li Yan off. He snapped that Su Hong was being arrogant and declared that he would show him the Raging Sea Spear technique at the micro level. Su Hong remained calm. As he moved his spear, he quietly controlled his power, deliberately suppressing it. Proficient level. He didn't want to reveal everything. He only wanted the guy in front of him to see just how ridiculous he was acting. The moment Su Hong's spear moved, Li Yan froze. That flow, that momentum, it was unmistakable. Proficient level Raging Sea Spear technique. No matter how hard he tried to deny it, the reality right in front of him wouldn't change. Su Hong reached the proficient level with his Raging Sea Spear technique. His movements flowed just like crashing waves. When he unleashed the attack, his opponent just froze. He couldn't trust his own eyes. Su Hong was just a martial apprentice. Not even a real martial artist yet. But somehow, he had mastered the Raging Sea Spear to the proficient level. That was something even veterans struggled to do. But it was happening right in front of him. A notification popped up for Su Hong. Defeated a higher level opponent. Martial value plus 35. It worked. Even normal sparring gave him points. He didn't have to risk death every time. He could get stronger just by fighting smart. Meanwhile, the opponent was panicking inside. This is impossible. Totally impossible. I trained for years and he did this so fast. Was all my hard work for nothing? He felt completely crushed. Before things got worse, Su Hong pulled back his spear. That's enough, he said calmly. Just then, the instructor showed up. He saw what happened and immediately stepped in to scold his student. The guy tried to argue, but the instructor slapped him hard across the face. If you can't handle losing, he shouted, you aren't a real martial artist. The crowd loved it. That guy was always stuck up, so seeing him get humbled felt great. The instructor turned to look at Su Hong, amazed. Su Hong only showed the move once, but he already mastered it. Even the geniuses in the capital couldn't do that. Your talent is scary, the instructor said. My student is arrogant, but meeting you is good for him. He bowed slightly. Little brother, I failed to teach him manners. Please forgive us. Su Hong was surprised. He didn't expect the man's attitude to change so fast. This guy changes faces faster than flipping a book page, he thought. Leaving the training grounds, he felt tired. But it was a good tired. He got a lot done today. He mastered the Thunder Rush Fist and the Raging Sea Spear. Plus, he earned a ton of martial value. Walking through his high school campus, he thought about his next steps. The entrance exam was coming up fast. Rich kids were already buying high-grade alloy weapons. To compete, he needed one too. He could still feel the spear in his hands. I'll stick with the spear, he decided. He needed to get a real alloy spear in fast, but he was broke. He barely had enough for his aunt's medical bills, let alone a weapon that cost 70,000. But he wouldn't give up. There had to be a way. Suddenly, an announcement played across the city. Ferocious beasts were attacking the wilderness. The city lord was hiring martial artists to hunt them for big rewards. Su Hong knew instantly this was his chance. When he got home later, his aunt was busy working, just like always. She told him not to push himself too hard since he already gave them money. His uncle insisted on working, saying he wouldn't rely on Su Hong as long as he could still move. They greeted him warmly when he walked in. He told them to rest and let him take care of things. He explained that he could make money now. His uncle laughed. He said that sounded nice, but he couldn't just sit around doing nothing. He wanted to keep earning money for their daily needs. His aunt smiled too. She said they needed to save up so Su Hong could focus on his training. Hearing that made Su Hong's chest ache. They had lived simply for so long. Unless he made enough money to secure their future, they would never stop working so hard. That night on the rooftop, he opened his status panel. The wilderness was dangerous, so he needed to be stronger. He dumped all his remaining martial value into his vitality stats. Power surged through him. His blood roared and his muscles tightened.
The number climbed until it hit 95.2. He felt like a beast ready to strike.
He was now just one tiny step away from being a real martial artist. 2 days later, late at night, he lay on the gym floor, totally drained, but his eyes were shining. He had perfected all his skills. Thunder Rush Fist, Raging Sea Spear, Vajra Fist, and Floating Light Palm. He exhaled deeply. 2 days of non-stop training had paid off. Now it was time to go. The next morning, he headed to the Star City martial artist base. When he got there, he stopped, amazed. He had seen it on TV, but being there was different. The place was packed with strong martial artists.
He checked the bounty board. Non-ranked beasts were worth 300 coins.
Tier 1 early stage were 1,000, mid-stage were 3,000, and late stage were 5,000. Su Hong frowned at the rules. They only accepted the left ear as proof for the reward.
It seemed pretty old-fashioned.
Nearby, a man dropped a bloody sack on the counter. "Miss, count these up for me," he said. The bag was full of ears. Suddenly, there was a commotion at the door.
"Move it," someone shouted. "Young Master Yi is here."
The crowd moved aside.
Su Hong saw an arrogant-looking guy walking in. He looked familiar. Su Hong frowned. That vibe. It reminded him of someone. People whispered around him.
If his uncle wasn't the boss, he'd be dead by now. I heard he got beat up recently.
Serves him right. Really? No wonder he's been hiding.
Su Hong listened, then looked up.
Their eyes met for a second.
They recognized each other.
The air got tense. Su Hong realized something.
The beasts weren't the only danger out here.
People were dangerous, too.
He told himself to stay on guard.
As he left, a stranger commented on how young he looked. "First time going out alone?" the man asked. Su Hong just nodded and kept walking.
Behind him, the man shook his head. "Just another kid rushing to die," he muttered. Su Hong stepped into the wilderness and looked around. The forest was quiet and peaceful, but he stayed alert.
He couldn't go back empty-handed.
2 hours later, he was deep in the woods. He took a sip of water.
Frowning. No beasts anywhere.
Maybe the outer area had already been hunted clean.
He decided to move faster and go even deeper.
Suddenly, his face changed. A massive shape blocked his path.
It was huge and scary. Exactly like in the books. A ferocious beast. Su Hong knew what it was immediately. An azure moon wolf.
A Tier 1 early stage beast. It stared at him with red eyes, showing its teeth and growling.
It was definitely hungry. The wolf crouched, ready to jump. Su Hong took a deep breath and got ready. It was time to fight.
As the wolf lunged at him with bared claws, Su Hong reacted in a split second. He sidestepped the attack and drove a lightning-charged punch straight into its gut. The impact sent the beast flying, its massive body slamming into a tree with a heavy thud. The wolf slumped to the ground, paralyzed. Su Hong stood over it, sparks of electricity still crackling around his fists. Looking at his trembling hands, he felt the power surging through him.
Fighting real ferocious beasts was way more thrilling than he had imagined.
Taking down a Tier 1 early stage beast in one hit got his blood pumping. If this was so easy, he wondered how he would handle a mid-stage beast. Just then, he sensed movement. A massive figure emerged from the shadows. A low growl vibrating through the forest. It was a raging black bear. A Tier 1 mid-stage beast.
It charged immediately, thinking it had found an easy snack.
But before it could strike, a blur of motion hit it head-on. A heavy, lightning-infused fist slammed into the bear, knocking it straight to the ground. Su Hong stood his ground, calm. He had dropped the beast with his own strength. Exhaling slowly, he realized how powerful he had become. Unless he ran into a Tier 2 beast, he was safe here. That was another 3,000 in bounty secured. Suddenly, a system notification popped up. His accumulated martial value was finally enough to break through and become a martial artist. Su Hong's heart raced. He was at the threshold, but before he could celebrate, a terrifying roar shook the forest. The pressure was intense, making his skin crawl. His expression darkened instantly. He turned toward the noise, narrowing his eyes. Whatever made that sound was much stronger than anything he'd faced yet. Curiosity and caution fought in his mind, but curiosity won. He moved quietly toward the roar. Reaching a high rock formation, he climbed up to get a better view. What he saw made him hold his breath. A colossal black-scaled serpent was coiled among the trees. It was a Tier 1 late-stage beast, a black jade python. Its size was massive, and its aura was terrifying. A group of people was fighting it nearby, but they were clearly losing. One by one, they were tossed aside, completely overpowered. Su Hong watched, heart pounding. This was a whole different level. Suddenly, his instincts screamed danger. He leaped aside just in time. The beast's spiked tail slammed down exactly where he had been standing, cracking the ground. The creature wasn't satisfied. It was furious that its prey had dodged. Su Hong barely landed before he had to jump again, narrowly dodging a sweeping strike. Even so, the attack was so fast it grazed him, sending a jolt of pain through his body. He realized just how fast this thing really was. Regaining his balance, he noticed an injured fighter nearby, unable to move. Ignoring his own pain, Su Hong grabbed the fallen fighter's weapon. Muttering that he'd borrow it for a second, he turned back to the beast. The python reared up, jaws wide open, ready to strike again. Su Hong barely dodged, rolling away just in the nick of time. Scrambling to his feet, his mind raced. A Tier 1 late-stage beast usually took a whole team to defeat. Yet here he was, fighting one head-on. It was because his skills were now perfected. Using his void step, he darted around, dodging attacks with blinding speed. Seeing an opening, he countered, driving the spear forward with the Raging Sea Spear technique. The tip pierced the beast's scales, making it roar in fury. The python thrashed violently, enraged by the pain. Su Hong didn't stop. He struck again, fluid and precise, driving the monster into a frenzy. Still, he knew the truth. With a body that huge, landing a killing blow wouldn't be easy. The size difference made hitting a vital spot incredibly hard. He reminded himself to stay patient. He had to weaken it first and wait for the right moment. Just then, the beast lashed out again, its massive body crashing toward him with overwhelming force. Su Hong unleashed a perfect thunderous fist. The explosive force met the beast head-on, stopping it in its tracks. A shockwave rippled through the air as both of them staggered back. Su Hong knew he couldn't stay close after landing a hit. He had to pull back immediately and look for another opening. One mistake meant death against a creature like this. His breathing was getting heavier. This fighting style was exhausting, but it was his only safe option. However, the python was tired too. Its movements were slowing down. The beast was nearing its limit. Just a little more, he thought. If I keep this up, I can win. He steadied himself for the next round, eyes locked on the beast. Suddenly a cold chill ran down his spine. Something was wrong. Before he could react, a violent force slammed into him from the side. He flew through the air, crashing hard against the ground. Gasping for breath, he forced himself to roll over, barely blocking a follow-up attack. The impact rattled his bones. He had been ambushed. Struggling to his feet, he shouted, "Who's there?" Several figures stepped from the shadows. One laughed loudly, mocking him. "How's it feel to be caught off guard? Maybe you should just hand over the black jade python to us." Su Hong's eyes narrowed as he recognized the speaker. His heart sank. Real trouble had arrived.